Hi, this is Dan and Lexi from Dan Schultz Outdoors, reminding you, keep the adventures alive.
Hey y'all, I'm Johnny.
And I'm Colleen. And we're the Keel Quest. And we want you to keep the adventures alive. Cheers!
Hey, this is Darren from Ride Paddle Repeat, encouraging you to keep the adventures alive.
This is David from Beachley Ironworks saying keep the adventures alive.
Hey, Kevin with an A here. Keep the adventure alive.
Hi, I'm Dan May I. Keep the adventures alive.
Hi, I'm Kevin Cowan, the Happy Camper. Remember, keep the adventures alive. Awesome!
Woo, buddy! Shug here! Keep the adventures alive. I am.
Ethan here, the Avid Outdoorsy guy, reminding you to keep the adventures alive.
We're John and Aaron.
Keep the adventures alive.
Hey everyone, it's Kylan from Lure of the North, and I encourage you to keep the adventures alive.
This is Sky North telling you, keep the adventures alive. And now on with the show.
Well, hey there. Happy Tuesday evening to everybody. Hope everybody's been having a great week. Welcome to another edition of CANOEHOUND'S Outdoor Adventure Show, a show that brings you a lot closer to the great outdoors. My name is Dennis, also known as CANOEHOUND, and we have got a great show lined up for you tonight. Just to let you know that if you're new to this show, thanks very much for tuning in tonight. And we are live here every Tuesday evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard. So be sure to mark it on your calendars. A lot of great shows in the past, and tonight is our second last show of the season. So I hope you enjoy. Next week we have our season finale and sort of a reunion show where we're bringing back a bunch of guests, but we'll get onto that in a moment here. Just a bit of news and updates while the chat over there populates. Just want to start by saying last week we had a fantastic show. We had Karina and Brandon on from the YouTube channels Alexis Outdoors and Timbermates. We shared all kinds of really cool stories, talked about their channels, including the new channel Timbermates, which is really picking up some steam. It's one of them niche channels, but you know what? If you're into it, and it's really enjoyable to watch. You know, who doesn't like to sit and watch some guy way up in a tree cutting down tree limbs, right? I'm sure everybody's done it at one point, you know, sat out on the front lawn or you know, looked out the window and just gazed at these people cutting down trees. But you know what? Nevertheless, great sites, great channels. Be sure to check them out. Also, last week, I just want to congratulate last week's swag giveaway winner, who was Gordon Keith. Gordon won a CANOEHOUND Adventures prize package, as well as a copy of Backcountry Eats by Kevin Ride from the YouTube channel Kevin Outdoors. I'm sure that'll be in the mail soon. Actually, I think Kevin might be on a canoe trip. So, Gord, if you're on tonight, and you happen to see this, just be a bit patient, but that thing will be coming in soon. And I too am still waiting for my edition of Backcountry Eats. So for those of you that are not aware of it, it's a great backcountry cookbook that deals a lot with dehydrating foods, food storage, and all kinds of neat things like that. So by all means, please do check it out at backcountryeats.com. And you know what? Tonight during our swag giveaway, we'll be giving away a copy of this. So stick around till at least the 8 o'clock hour. Stick around through the whole show, but at around the 8 o'clock hour, we'll be doing our swag giveaway, and we'll be giving away a copy of Kevin's book. So you got to have a ticket to win. So make sure you enter the contest tonight. Just a reminder that this is the second last show, as I mentioned a minute ago, of Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. We'll be taking obviously the summer off, just like we did last year. Next week, we have a reunion show, and get this, it's going to be a good one. So make sure you mark it on your calendars now. When I probably post it live tomorrow or the day after, as far as like being on YouTube, make sure you hit your reminder on that. But got a great evening planned. We got some great prizes that we're giving away next week, including from our sponsors of next week's show. A kid reflector oven will be going to one lucky winner. A big Canoe Hound Adventures prize package, including a hat and a coffee mug. We got some stuff coming in from some of our guests from past shows that will be on the show as well. People like, we've got Kylan Marone from Alone and Lure of the North. Shug, Sean Emery. If you're a hammock camper, you know who he is. Hap Wilson, Jason Irwin, CW Getz from CW Getz Outdoors, Craig Roots from Council Tools, Mike Ranta. This guy's traveled across Canada not once but twice by canoe solo with him and his dog Spitzy. So he's always an interesting guy. Ben Stacy and Sean Rowley will be on. Sean Rowley from Paddling Adventures Radio. Camper Christina, Karina and Brandon once again from Lexus Outdoors and Timbermates. And of course, a couple others will probably be popping their heads in, like, our regular Kevin Callan and things like that. So make sure you tune in next week. We got like 10-minute segments with everybody. The show's going to really flow along really good, and it's going to be a fun evening. So make sure 7 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time next Tuesday, the 29th of June, which will be our last show of the season. Then I get to go out and play. Actually, I get to go out and play this weekend. I'm actually leaving Thursday night and heading to Temagami for a nice little 4-day trip with a buddy. Going to go out there and shake off the cobwebs. So I'm looking really forward to that. Just really quickly, member shout-outs, as I do every week. Just like to thank our Solo Tripper channel members for their support, and all our channel members, of course. Stein North, Kevin with an A, Jeremy Walla, Smoking Our Barbecue, Pam Bookham, and Michaela Ferguson, who are all in at the Solo Tripper channel level. Thank you very much for your support. If you're looking to get more out of Canoe Hound Adventures, and I'm going to tell you something that for the off season, what you can actually expect if you are already a channel member. But for those of you that aren't, that join button down here on YouTube or on the YouTube feed, click it. You get all kinds of details. We have package $3.99, $99, and $19.99 per month, and you get all kinds of benefits with that. Been lagging a bit, I'll be honest, but you know what? I have a lot in store for the summertime, including member-only live chats or live streams, okay? I'm going to have a couple of them throughout the summer, and we will be bringing guests on, so you have to be a member to see who we're going to have on, right? And we will be keeping you all up to date on that. You get your channel decals and stuff like that as long as you're a member. But by all means, please consider it. Helps support the channel. Helps pay for these live streams, all the stuff that goes on in the background. Believe it or not, maybe amateur, but there's a lot of things that go on in the background with this. As every week, I like to thank my channel business supporters, Kid Products, who will be the sponsor of next week's season finale show. As I mentioned, great prize from them. Algonquin Outfitters, they're always in there for us. Backcountry Coffee Company, they're the ones that keep me caffeinated during the shows. Thanks very much, guys. It's cooled down this week. That's a good one. Great Signs and Graphics, Short Hills Beard Company, and our friends over at Ursac USA. All their links can be found in the description below. Please check them out. Support these companies. They're all businesses that make great products. And hey, what business can't use support of people like us? Now is the new segment. Last week, I started a new little segment called A Toast to the Backcountry. Basically, it's something that I'm going to carry on for the remainder of this season, and then we're going to do next season. We're going to be doing toasts, and if anybody has a specific toast that they'd like me to try and get on air, by all means, please do send it to me at canoehound@gmail.com. What this is just basically something good or something in memory of or whatever of the backcountry, something that we all love. I hope everybody's got their own favorite beverage tonight for tonight's toast, which is going to happen in just a moment. And like I said, it's a great opportunity if you got a glass, can, a cup, or whatever it might be of your favorite beverage, hot or cold, alcoholic, non-alcoholic, it doesn't really matter. And yeah, we're just going to do a toast to the backcountry. Also, if this is brought to you by buymeacoffee.com. If anybody out there ever wants to support the channel, and I really like my beer, I really, really do, you have the opportunity to buy me a coffee or a beer. And if you do that, I will, by all means, get your name on the list like this. Special thanks to this week's beer contributors, Camper69 and everybody else down the list there. And there's the link to buymeacoffee.com/canoehound if you'd like to, pour one down this gullet of mine. Anyways, let's get on with this week's toast. This one actually comes to me from a regular viewer on the show here. It's actually Camper69. His name's Gary Smith. He asked me to propose a toast to somebody that he knew. His name's Earnhardt Friends. He was the founder and a huge supporter of Friends of Frontenac. Earnhardt died a few years ago in a tragic canoeing accident. So in his memory, raise your glasses or your cups, whatever you may have. And in his memory, cheers, Earnhardt. You'll never be forgotten. Enjoy, everybody. All right. That's good. Hopefully I love my beers. This is one of my favorites from a local brew house called Get It. I'll let you finish reading that. Anyways, and it's in my newest little cup cozy. It's a nice leather cozy that was made for me by Tunis Richards and Brittany Richards from Tunis Richards Freak of Nature. Thanks very much, guys. Some great craftsmanship there. They actually got my logo in there. Love it. Absolutely love it. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated. Going to keep my beer cozy. Anyways, let's move on. We just got a couple more quick things here before we do get on to tonight's topic. If you have any topics or guests that you'd like to see on, well, not this season, but for next season, drop me an email at canoehound@gmail.com. Like I say, I will try to make it happen. I've already gotten, I am so excited for this, but I have 2 guests that will knock your socks off for early next season. So we're talking in September, one in September, one in early October. You wait. This is cool news. I can't wait. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag because we're just making sure we're trying to lock down a date so it's set in stone. But when that happens, I will get that on the Facebook page. And also, if you have any questions tonight for myself or our guest who is going to be coming on in about 30 seconds, by all means, put the word question, capital letters in the chat over there, and I will try and get that up on screen. If we get the opportunity, maybe you could even come on and you could ask him a question yourself after the 8 o'clock hour when I post a link. So that's always a great thing to do too. He would really enjoy speaking with you. I'm sure he would. Anyways, without further ado, tonight's guest was on the show back on episode 31. That was like 5 weeks ago, I think. And due to his popularity, I had so many people reaching out saying, man, I hope you have him on the show again. I love all the information he has. He's such a knowledgeable guy. So I reached out to him and thought I would bring him back for another episode. And I happen to have one of his books, and it's a map and compass book. So by virtue of having this, he must know what he's talking about, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be in print, right? Anyways, I just got to introduce him. Tonight, welcome, Cliff Jacobson. How you doing, Cliff?
Hey, thanks, man. It's great to be back on your show. I wish I could be up there in Ontario paddling right now, but
Cliff, Thursday night, I am so jacked. I'm so jacked to be getting out there. So, yeah. So, what have you been up to over the last 5 weeks?
Well, I did a canoe trip. I canoed 10 days on the Buffalo River in Arkansas, and the water was so high they closed the river the first day, wouldn't let anybody on it. Then after that, it was quite a ride because the water was still probably 5 feet above normal. And in the process, I managed to mess up my knee and tear my meniscus. But I'm going to get that under control. That's healing pretty good. For an old guy, I think I'm in pretty good shape.
That's we were talking about that in the green room, and I said, you know what? When I'm your age, a ripe old age of 59 years old, I hope I'm doing the same thing you're doing.
Oh, yeah, I was 59 once. Congratulations.
Well, I'm not there yet, but when I am, no, that's awesome. Well, hopefully you're up and hobbling around a little better on the knee now.
I'm going to be okay. I mean, we're still hoping to do about 11 days on the Rio Grande River down on the Mexican-Texas border in November. But right now, that baby's doing 2 cubic feet per second. Usually we like it more around 600, 800. So right now you'd be walking. You just walk over to Mexico.
Yeah, a little boulder hopping, right?
Yeah, well, we just hope
gravel gardens. Yeah. Well, you know what? You're the professional. We'll call you the professional tonight. So we're going to let you take us on a journey on map and compass navigational skills, the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts, and different techniques for GPS and stuff like that. Where would you like to start?
Well, I think maybe we should start with a simple question, which is one: does anybody use compasses anymore? And if the answer is no, then there is something wrong. Because if you're depending on technology, you got a problem. And you have a problem for several reasons. One, electronics can fail. You can drop a GPS overboard. You can lose your cell phone, whatever the case might be. And number two, if you don't understand the basics of compass and map navigation, you're going to get yourself in big trouble with this electronic stuff. Because you know what? It's like a question I used to ask when I taught this subject to my 8th graders. I would say, okay, you guys, what happens if I give you a test with 100 questions on them and you get one wrong? What do you get? You get a 99. Well, what is that? It's an A, man. Yeah. I said, now what happens if I give you 100 navigation questions out in the wilderness and you get one wrong? What do you get? Lost, man. The point is you need a series of checks and balances so you don't get lost. And even the most competent outdoors person, if they don't use those checks, there's going to be a time you're going to screw up, you're going to get lost, and you're going to have a heck of a time trying to get found. So, I guess we should begin with that. And so, we can interject we'll interject maps in here as we kind of go along. But first of all, let's just talk about the compass for a minute. Let's say, what kind of compass do you need? Now, there's a couple of things I'd like you to throw on the screen first. And bring up that picture of that Brunton and that Santo KB14. Okay, now this is a Brunton pocket transit. I'm sure anybody who's had geology in college has used one. These things are frightfully expensive. I think they're about $300 and some now. They're very accurate. The question is, do you need one? And the answer is no, you don't need one. And furthermore, for wilderness navigation, you don't want one. So let me back up first of all and tell you a story about this instrument, because I actually have what's in my hand right here. This is the military version of it. This one right here. This is the compass that I used when I was in the Army back in 1341. Okay?
1341.
And so now this thing is graduated in mils, not in degrees. 6,400 mils in a circle, 360 degrees in a circle. This thing is bomb-proof. This was a compass that was issued to me when I was a forward observer in the U.S. Army stationed in Germany. I never used it. What did I use instead? I used a Silver Ranger, which is a platform-based compass, all right? Plastic base plate. It's not as accurate as this, but I was the fastest forward observer in the whole unit. Here's why. To use this to figure out how to hit a target down there, I got a map right here. So the first thing that I would have to do where I am is I would take a compass bearing with this thing. Okay, and it stops pretty fast. I get that bearing. Then as soon as I get that bearing, I have to plot it on the map. Now I know where I am on the map, okay? But now I have to draw a line from where I am to that bearing point, which is the target. That means I need two things. I need a pencil and a protractor. So I'm going to sit there with a protractor and a pencil, and I'm going to draw that line. And as soon as I get that line drawn, now let's assume that there's not a lot of bad stuff going on. Like I'm not in a combat zone, bombs are going up all around me where I'm trying to figure all this stuff out, okay? Then I pick up the phone and I call in fire mission. Now that's what it takes to use this. Yes, it's really accurate, okay? Now, if I use a stamp, but instead what I used was my standard, well, this isn't a syllaba, but it's, if I can find it, I had it here just a second ago. Here it is. This is a Santo, but it's basically the same thing, okay? With this, is all I had to do was point it at where the target was, turn the dial, set this thing down on the map, turn it until the lines within the capsule align with north-south, call in fire mission, and there it is. No pencil, no protractor, not needed. So what you really want is you want a protractor-based compass. All the accuracy in the world is only going to do you good if you're a surveyor. Now, when I was I started out with a degree in forestry, so I worked out on the West Coast for the Bureau of Land Management as a forester, okay? And we used staff compasses in those days. And the staff compass was kind of slow, so instead we started using, show them that KB14, will you?
Is that the other one?
Yeah, it's the other one. No, yeah, not that one. It's a metal. Yeah, okay. Now, this is the Santo KB14. This is probably the most accurate hand compass in the world. In the old days, the one that I had, they said it was accurate to 1/6 of a degree. I see the new ones say they're accurate to 1/3 of a degree. These compasses are about, I think they're around $125. The Bruntons are about $350. You sight through this thing, and when you sight through it and you look through it, it projects sort of like these heads-up displays you see on some of these modern cars. It projects that out there, and this thing is accurate to 1/3 of a degree. So we would mount this on a staff, and we would use this instead of a staff compass because it was much more accurate. The point I'm going to say again, use something like this, and in order to take a bearing off a map, you're here. You want to go to the portage over there. So you take your compass, and you don't know where the portage is over there, but you can see it on the map. So you have to start by determining the bearing off the map. And in order to do that, you have to have a protractor and a pencil. Unless, of course, you have a compass with a built-in protractor. In other words, one of these, because this has a built-in protractor. So no protractor needed and no pencil needed. Now, I can't tell you the super advantage that this has over more accurate instruments. So the question is, how much accuracy do you need? And the answer is, for wilderness travel, not a great deal. How much is not a great deal? Quite honestly, 4 degrees accuracy is probably plenty. Why? Because 1 degree of compass error equals 90 feet per mile of ground error. Say that again. 1 degree of compass error equals 90 feet per mile of ground error. So if you're 4 degrees off, you're 360 feet off, which is about 100 yards. Well, boy, that's a big number, isn't it? I mean, you want to be that far off on a mile shot? Well, first of all, you're not going to do mile shots, and you're not going to do half-mile shots. If you're smart, you're not going to do anything over 1/4 of a mile. So instead of being 360 feet off per mile, if you do a 1/4 mile shot, you're going to be 90 feet off. That's not very far, okay? And furthermore, there's a technique that you use when you use the compass that even makes up for that more fully. Can you throw on the screen that aiming off picture?
That was the one with the portage, right?
Yeah.
Oh, one more. Sorry, I'm trying to see my other screen here, and there we go.
That's the one. Okay, now, okay, this is an example. This is actually from my book, Justin Cody's Race to Survival. Now, when I wrote this book, I did a no-no. I mixed a fictional high-adventure survival story set in the Canadian bush with a how-to book. And my thought was, kids who like the outdoors are going to read outdoor books. Most kids don't know if they like the outdoors because their head's stuck in their cell phone all day long. So I thought the story would drag them in. It is. It's a fast-moving, kind of exciting wilderness story. And everything that happens in it is actually true. Everything that happened did happen to either me or one of my friends over time. So the happenings are all really realistic. But I wanted the kids to learn something besides just have a fun adventure novel. So I surrounded the book with all kinds of like how-to stuff. How is Justin going to get from this point to another point? And he's faced with this very same problem. He's in a canoe all by himself. His grandpa has disappeared, and he's just come to this point right over here. And he has a map. He looks at his map and he says, "Oh, there's a rapid here. I don't want to go down there." Then he looks on the map and he says, "Oh, the map shows a portage right here." So what he does, he determines a bearing. And we really should distinguish the difference between an azimuth and a bearing, because there is a difference, but we'll use the terms as if they're the same right now. So he's in his canoe and he determines, using the protractor function of his compass, that the azimuth to the portage is 320 degrees. Now, if he follows that 320, he's going to hit the shoreline somewhere. The question is, where's he going to hit it? His chances of hitting the portage exactly are real close to none and zero. One, because the compass isn't quite that accurate. Number two, because the location of the portage trail on the map isn't quite that accurate either. So he'll hit the shoreline all right, but the question is, when he hits it, how does he know which way to go to find it? So the point is, you don't determine a precise bearing to an object with a compass. You, in orienteering terms, we use the term aiming off. You aim off. So what Justin says, okay, it's 320 to this portage. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 10 degrees. And he changes his compass reading to 310. So now actually he goes off this way, and he's going to hit the shoreline somewhere. He doesn't know where he hit it, but he hit it somewhere here. And the one thing he knows, he's west or left of the portage, in which case he turns right, follows the shoreline until he comes to the portage and follows it. So basically, this is how you use a hand compass for navigation in the wilderness, okay? And so, which brings us back to square one, is how much accuracy do you need? And the answer is you don't need a lot. So let's look at some. Let's look at some compasses first. There's a slide that I gave that there. I think there's 3 compasses on there lined up. I just want to show viewers what I bring on my canoe trips. Yeah. Okay. So now on the left here, this is the S02 MC2 with what's called a global needle, and that you've heard. I'm sure everybody's heard of declination, but some people may not have heard of inclination. Inclination is, here's the needle, it's flat. But as you go further towards the North Pole, you get closer to the North Pole, that needle actually wants to point towards, it's pointing towards that pole all the time, okay? So, and if you're way south of the equator, like it's going to point like straight up. And if you were to be above the magnetic North Pole, that needle would dip down this way. Now you say, well, you can just hold the compass level. Well, you sort of can, but the needle really isn't turning easily on its little platform because it's a little cockeyed. So you really want that needle to be straight up and down on its platform, so it'll float cleanly. So it's all they've done with these global needles is they put a little pin in there, and if the needle starts to come up, it just pops, hits the top of the plastic capsule and stays level. Now, do you need a global needle? No, you don't. Certainly not in Canada, because why? Because any compass you buy in Canada is already correctly calibrated for that upper north zone. Okay, so you don't even need to worry about that. If you're going to go to South America and you're going to take your Canadian calibrated compass with you, it'll probably still work down there. You're going to have to hold on a little bit of an angle, and it's not going to swing as free. And you might say, "Oh, darn it, come on, needle, come on." But yeah, it'll work. But if you get a global needle, you don't have to worry about it. But this will cost you about another $10 for the global feature. Not that you need it. But here's what you get. What you get is a base plate. This is really important because the base plate is the protractor function of the compass. So in order to go like Justin did from the mouth of that river to the portage, he had to determine the bearing to the portage off the map. For that, he just used the simple protractor function. He didn't need a pencil and he didn't need a protractor. Now, by the way, you don't have to spend a fortune for an orienteering style, or what we call a base plate compass. You can get a very serviceable one actually for around $10. I would suggest you go up a little bit, spend a little bit more, and you get a little bit more accuracy out of it, but you're going to get more ease of use, especially when working off a map. How much accuracy can you get in one of these? If you hold it and use it the way I'm going to show you in just a little bit, you will be always within 2 degrees of an optical transit. And if you get a little bit more practice with it, you'll be 1.5. How do I know? I used to be a forester, and we had transits, we had theodolites, and one day I borrowed a theodolite and I set it up and I tested a bunch of compasses and how to hold the compass and how to get the best accuracy out of it. And I can consistently get 1.5 degrees out of this. Sometimes I'm within 1 degree or even less of that transit, of that theodolite. And I'm going to show you how to do that just a little bit later in the program. But I want to just hold up a few compasses and show you a few things to look for and why you want a base plate. Okay, this is an old style Silva. What's it called? This is called the Silva. This one's made in Sweden, actually. This is an old Silva Type 3. And it's all you need. You used to be able to buy these for $15. I think you can still get a similar compass like this for $15. This does not have a declination. Yes, it does. It has a declination adjustment down it right here. But it's what's called it's not a mechanical declination adjustment. We'll talk about declination in a little bit. It's nice to have declination, especially if you're canoeing in northern Canada, where declinations out in Northwest Territories area, none of it can be 16, 18 degrees, 20 degrees, whatever. We'll get to that in a minute. But what you do want is a long base plate. And the reason why you want a long base plate is because when you put this thing down on a map, okay, and you're here, and you want to go here, it's nice if the base plate will reach from here to here. If the base plate is only this long and you are here and you want to go to here, you're off the base plate and you're going to have to maybe draw a line. All right, so this is about a $15 deal, and it's fine, okay? Now, some things I don't like. Here's a compass with a real long base plate. This is a Brunton. Now, Brunton does some compasses, I think, really, really well. But, okay, I have to admit, I'm left-handed, And we left-handed people, we are very good at adapting to right-handed things. But when a right-handed manufacturer purposefully makes something that is so right-handed that we can't use it without it really inconveniences us, then we get a little bit uppity, maybe even a little bit mad. This is an example of that. This is a nice compass, actually, but it's got this cutout here in the side. It's made to hold the thing in your hand like this. That's great if you're right-handed. If you're left-handed, it's just awkward. It doesn't fit right, and I don't like it. I'd never buy it just for that reason. And yet it's got the printing on the degree printing, the way the dial turns is excellent. So sometimes you wind up paying for what I call over-engineering. You don't need a bunch of special stuff. This is an orienteering compass. It's got all sorts of things for orienteering. It's got a million scales on it. You know, if you want that stuff, fine. But I don't know what this costs now. I think these compasses are around $50. Fine, okay? But so is the compass I just showed you up here, which I think is more versatile. But get one with at least a fairly long base plate. Now let's talk a little bit about sighting.
No, really quick, those Suntos are they're getting to be a very popular type of compass, aren't they?
Yeah, Suntos. Well, those of you who have my book, the one he just held up, Map and Compass, I really extol the virtues of silver, and that's because the first issue of this. I mean, that silver was sold. I can't remember. I think it was maybe 1994 or something like that. That's silver was sold. I don't remember what, but all I know is a bizarre thing. Johnson Camping got the silver thing. Brunton made silvers or something under the Nexus name. It's just nobody can keep it straight. What happened with silver? But if you're buying a silver in the U.S. or Canada today, you're not getting the Swedish silver. You're getting the Chinese silver. Mm-hmm. Now they're decent. Okay, they're pretty good, but they're still not like the original ones that were made in Sweden a long time ago. Before we leave this sighting thing, I want to talk about this mirror, because you go online and you look up a compass and they make a big deal about this mirror, because they say with the mirror like this, you can hold it in front of you like this and you can sight over the top and you can get it absolutely perfect. No, you can't. I don't know how many of you ever shot a handgun, but if you've ever shot a handgun with a 2-inch barrel, you know it's pretty difficult to hit something with. Now, I'll tell you what, let's take the sights on that 2-inch barrel handgun and put it on a rotator, plastic rotator, so that when you want to use the sight, you rotate it up. See what you can hit with it. Won't be much. And that's what you have here. You have a sight. You have a 2.5-inch sighting plane with a flip-flop thing that goes back and forth like this, and you are supposed to look through here, look into the mirror, reflect it down on the dial to make sure that everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be. Then while holding this whole thing steady, look over the top and sight right along through this little notch on the top. You want to really screw up your accuracy, go ahead and do that. I'm going to show you a much more accurate and better way, and I'm going to show it to you right now. First of all, I'm going to open this thing up all the way. Now, when I've opened this up all the way, I have a sighting plane that's a lot longer than it was before. Okay, now what I'm going to do is, I don't know if you can see me. I'm going to just move I'm going to have to just change this like this. All right, now here's what I should say. You try this. Put some number on the dial or whatever, or maybe you want to determine the bearing of a tree out there or something like that. Hold the compass right down the mid part of your body, like so. I'm left-handed, you hold it with your right hand. Now, take your other hand and put it on the dial, okay? So what we have right now, I'm going to just move this down. What we have right now is a triangle. My forearms come in like this at my side. This is the apex of the triangle. Now, if I want to point this compass at something, I never do this. This is what I do. Here's the compass. It's pointing directly down the midline of your body, halfway between your chest and your hips. Now, if I want to sight on something, I turn my body like this. I am now aiming at a point straight out in front of me here. If I wanted to sight something over to my left, I would turn my whole body like so. So the first rule of using the compass is you never say, I want to go that way. You say, I want to go that way. In other words, you always want to go in the direction, this direction. You never want to go that way or that way. Does this make sense? Now you're holding the compass directly in front of you like this at a convenient height. It's about halfway between your hips and your neck. Now we're going to point this directly at the object, and we're going to turn the dial until the red end of the needle, which is the north end, is framed within that little capsule. Okay. Now we're going to take, and I call this eye shift readings. We're going to take 3 eye shift readings. In other words, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep looking at the object straight in front of me. The compass is pointing at that object straight actually in front of me. And I'm going to shift my eyes from the point to the dial. Point, dial, point, dial, point, dial. I'm going to do this 3 times. I call this 3 eye shift readings. I'm going to do it by shifting my eyes, not by doing this. No, keep your head straight and just shift your eyes from the dial to the point. Dial to the point. Make sure that needle is absolutely lined up. Dial to the point. Do that 3 times, and I'll put money on this table right now. You will be within 2 degrees of an optical transit. Use the sighting system on this compass. You'll be 4 or 5 degrees off. How do I know? Because when I was in forestry school at Purdue University, we were taught to use this mirror, and I was getting deducted points all the time because my bearings were always off. And then I said, there's got to be an easier way. So one day I borrowed, it was a transit in those days. I borrowed a transit and I set it up and I started practicing different ways. And I came up with this, and suddenly I could get within 1.5 degrees, 2 maximum of the transit every single time. So, I'm not saying that a cover isn't nice. And the mirror is really nice. It's nice for shaving. Actually, some of you may actually have read my book. It's out of print now, called Canoeing and Camping Beyond the Basics. And in that book, I tell the story of how we were in the Boundary Waters, and an old buddy of mine, we were walking down a Portage Trail. We ran into this. We were coming out into a lake, and these young people, they were carrying a girl on a stretcher. She was about 16, I guess, and she's moaning and groaning and everything. And my buddy was a football coach, and so he just, he says, "Does it hurt here? No. Does it hurt here? Ah!" He says, "I think she's got appendicitis." I said, "You got to get her out of here." Now, I am not making this up. This is exactly how it happened. I talked to the crew there, and I said, "Listen, you guys, you are about 6 hours away from, I think it was from Gunflint Lodge, which was on Saginaw Lake, which is just south of the Canadian border." I said, "Get 2 of your strongest guys and your fastest canoes, put her in there and get her out of here." And as I'm talking, Forest Service float plane comes flying overhead. Honest, this is total true story. It's in the book. And I whipped out the first thing I said, "Hey, you kids," I didn't know what else to do. I said, "Hey, you kids, line up and do jumping jacks." I know, I said, "Do jumping jacks." So they're doing jumping jacks. And then I brought out my compass with the mirror and I went like this. Now, those of you who've ever used a heliograph, which is a signal mirror, it's almost impossible to flash the cockpit of an airplane as he's flying without sighting it. It's like, good luck. I went like this, and all of a sudden, bingo, that plane turns and he does a circle around and he looks.
You hit the lottery.
He comes around and he lands right there. And I'll never forget, he steps out of the plane and his words were, "You better have a damn good reason for bringing this airplane down." I said, "Yes, sir, we got a kid with appendicitis." They picked her up, flew her to Grand Marais, Minnesota, landed right on the beach, brought her to the hospital. She had her appendix out and lived happily ever after. So, you know, a mirror can be used. I guess a mirror can be useful for other things too. A cover, I do like a cover though, only because it kind of protects the dial. But you know what? I could lose this whole part over here and it wouldn't affect the function of this compass. So the moral of the story, what I'm trying to tell you is you don't have to spend a fortune for a compass, but you need one with a base plate, one that has a built-in protractor. And you need to know how to use that. And it's not just a matter of saying, and this is what's wrong with how the Boy Scouts have traditionally taught compass. What they do is they get the, I know, listen, I'm an Eagle Scout, I can say this, I can be a little critical. They would get the kids together and they say, okay, everybody set 45 degrees on your compass. Okay, go, 45 degrees. Okay, stop. Now set 30 degrees on your compass. Everybody go 30 degrees. That's nice. They can set a number on the dial and follow it. Wonderful. But what they don't ask is the kids say, where do I get the 45 from? Where do I get the 30 from? So before even handling the compass, they need to understand the map. They need to know how to use the map to determine the bearing from where they are to where they want to go. And that's why you want a compass with a built-in base plate.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. They all serve the same purpose, but there's just different styles like everything else, right?
Right. So get you know, everybody needs more than one compass. Okay, you got one traveling compass. This is like on your body all the time. Okay, and then you need a backup of some sort. And you know, it could be one of these down in your pack, or it can be one of those. I carry three, as you can see here. The one on the left's on my body. The one in the center is actually strapped to a thwart, and the one on the right is just a little emergency thing, you know, if all else fails. And, you know, while we are talking about that, I want to show you another technique. All right, let's say that you lose your compass and you got some other people in your party. They have a compass. They don't know how to use it, but it's all they have is something that looks like this. I don't know. Can you see this thing? Yeah, here it comes. Yeah, something that looks like that. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, but before I'm going to show you how to use this, that you can get within 5 degrees of a transit with this. I'll show you how to use it in a minute. But first, I want to tell you a little story. Many years ago, I developed materials for the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources. One of the set of materials was how to read a map and compass, which they used with the Hunter Education Program. That ultimately became part of this book here, which, by the way, this book here, this is my 8th grade environmental science map and compass curriculum. And I figured if 13-year-olds can understand it, grown-ups can too. But more on that in a minute. So anyway, wait, I just lost my train of thought. What were we talking about?
I don't know. You threw the book there. You're gonna show or talk to us about
how to use
compass
right.
with the
right. Okay.
Yeah.
So now here's the thing. Okay, I'm going to just put this down here so you can sort of see. I think you can. All right, here we go. Now, what most people are going to do with a little compass thing like this, if they don't have, if your primary compass breaks, let's say, you can still use the protractor function of it to determine the bearing. You just can't use the needle anymore because it's broken. Okay, so you need to first of all determine the bearing that you want to go. Well, say you want to go 120 degrees. This thing is graduated like every 10 degrees. And what most people will do is they'll hold this thing up like so, and they'll just sort of turn the compass until north on the needle points to north on the dial, and they will say, well, if north is this way, then they will say, well, 120 degrees, okay, that's about this way. About isn't good enough. You got to be more accurate. Here's how to get accuracy out of something like this. I'm going to stand up. It'll be easier for you to see. Okay, so I'm going to hold this compass here like this, and I'm going to find on this compass where I want to go, which is 120 degrees. Let me find it on here. 90. Okay, here's 120. Now what I'm going to do is my finger right here, right below my finger is the number 120. You probably can't see it very clearly here. It's a little hard to show. My finger is forming a triangle, the apex of which is at the 120-degree line. Okay. Now, you remember, you always hold the compass like so. Always, this is the direction you want to go. You always want to go straight away from the compass. Now, I'm holding this compass in front of me. Remember, my fingers right here, the 120-degree mark is between my two fingers. Now, holding the compass level, I'm going to turn my body around until the red end of the needle, I'd have to swing way around, points to north on the dial. Okay? Okay, right now, this needle where I am in my house is pointing this way. This is north in my north right now. So this is north, but I am now facing 120 and I'm going to go that way. So to verify, once again, if you have I call this a gumball machine compass, because this and the nickel will buy you a gumball or a goofy little compass. Like you take one of these little round compasses, you determine what the bearing is, you make a little triangle with your fingers, you put the triangle over where you want to go, which we said was 120 degrees, then holding it level, you turn your body until the north magnetic needle points to north on the dial. You are now facing 120 and you would go straight ahead that way. So even the cheapest compass, even a cheap little compass like this, if you're careful with, you can get, about 5 or 6 degrees accuracy out of even a little gumball machine compass like you see here.
Just really quick question now. You've probably seen like little survival whistles and little apparatuses that have little tiny compasses on it. Are these probably about as useless as movies on a bowl?
This is all. I mean, what can I say? You know, I have this here. I have this thing, and it goes like this because as a writer, I get a lot of equipment come across my desk. Okay.
Yeah.
If something comes across my desk that's brilliant, I tell the world. Why? Because an awful lot of brilliant products are designed by tiny little companies, little ma or pa, and they don't have a chance against these big boys. I want the world to know. If some product comes across my desk and it's dangerous, I tell the world. Why? Because it's dangerous, man. If something comes across my desk and it's stupid, I don't say a word. Why? Because everybody's got a right to make a living. And if a person doesn't want to do their homework, they don't want to do their research, they're that stupid, they want to fall for that stuff, let them. Eventually, they'll learn. Which, you know, this is kind of off the subject, but, you know, Dennis and I were talking about this before the show. It's a kind of interesting observation that I do a monthly blog. And if I put up a blog about how to do something like, this is what we're doing now, or we're going over, you know, how to do things called skills, I'll get a couple hundred hits maybe. But if I put up something about equipment, best compass to buy, best life jacket to buy, best paddle to buy, I get to a couple thousand hits. The point is, it just seems like people today, they don't want to learn a skill. They want to buy something that will solve their problems. Look at the number of expensive sharpening tools you can buy for a knife. All kinds of fancy electric powered things, all sorts of things that hold the angle on a knife. God forbid you should learn how to actually sharpen a knife. It's not hard.
Right.
But, you know, that's kind of like, you know, like where we are with a lot of this stuff.
Yeah. We discussed this with Gord. Gord is the winner from the swag giveaway last week. How you doing, Gord? Good to see you. He says it's really amazing how many people have a compass but really have no clue how to use them. Cliff, you make it so simple for everyone. We were talking about that in the in the green room, and you had a really funny story about that.
Hey, Keith, thanks for bringing that up. This is a true story. Funnier than hell. Okay, this is right after I developed these materials. So this is for the Department of Natural Resources in Minnesota. And I was doing research, and I want to find out, how many people carry a compass when they're outdoors. So the Minnesota DNR, in those days at least, whenever they would pick up a lost hiker or a lost hunter, they'd ask them a battery of questions. Do you have this? Do you have that? Blah, 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 blah. But one of the questions that they asked was, do you have a compass? And I was surprised. More than half of the people who were lost and picked up by the DNR did have a compass. So the next question was, why didn't you use your compass to find your way out of the woods? And the answer was, well, I tried, but I guess I didn't know how to use it. And then the next, I'm not making this up, this happened. And then the next question was, well, if you don't know how to use it, why do you bring it? And the answer was, everybody should carry a compass in the outdoors in case they get lost.
Okay, put your little laughing emojis in the chat right now. That's funny, though, really. And you know what? When you were telling me that story, I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming. Really quick, we're gonna get. Hopefully, we can get into like the fundamentals of what to do when you're first picking up a compass. But I see a question come in from Chloe here asking, one of her Sunto MCG 2G goes from 2 to 64, and one from 0 to 340. Why? Does that?
Okay, I think you've got something a little mixed up here. There's only 2 scales that are used in North America. One is degrees. So your compass goes from 0 to 360 is what it does. I'm going to hold this up right now. I'm holding this up right now. I don't know how much you can see. Okay, so there's a 0 at the top, and there's 340 right there. So there's 340, and 0 is either 0 or 360 implied. So where you see the north is 0 degrees. The north is also 360 degrees. Okay. But they don't print the 360 on there because it would just look cluttered. But if you look to the left over here, if you look over here, you can see that's 340 right there. So this would be 350. Whoops, I'm having trouble. And this is 360. Then it starts in again, 10, 20, and so forth all the way around. So if your compass was sold to you in North America with a degree dial, it's a 360 degree dial. The only other kind of dial you could have would be.
So here's 0 degrees, and going all the way around implied is 360 again at the 0 mark up here.
Right. The only other kind of thing you could have is something that looks like this. Okay. Okay. I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if you can see in there, but this is in mils. The military uses mils. Both the U.S. and Canadian military, we use the same thing. Okay, so this is 6,400 mils. So 0 is north is 0 or 6,400. So okay, so east would be 1,600. South would be 3,200, west would be 4,800, and north again would be 6,400. Now, when I was in the Army and I was a forward observer, this is what I used, okay, and it was in mils, and I had to convert, in order to use my Silva compass, I had to convert degrees to mils. So I had a little cardboard card taped to my arm that converted mils to degrees. It was just a matter of looking at it, and it was a very, very, very quick conversion.
So Cliff, with that being said, there could the 2 to 64 be implied, like they dropped the zeros, 2 to 64 mil? 200 to 640 mil?
No.
No?
He's first of all, M2G. What's the G? Is that government? If that's a government model, I haven't seen one, but maybe they make one, which they well could. Okay, it might have mills on it, and if it has mills on it, it would be graduated from 0 to 6,400, but they wouldn't have the 2 zeros on the end of the 6,400. Okay, because it's just cluttered up. He says, yes, I have one cento in mils and one in degrees. So the mils is 6,400. North is 0. East is 1,600. South is 3,200. West is 4,800. And north is back to either 6,400 or 0. So that's a really good question. Even more so because somebody might pick up one of those compasses and not understand it. But if you just remember that there's 6,400 mils in a circle, that's all you need to know. Now, some foreign countries have used a different system, okay? But all military maps shared by NATO, okay, US, Canadian, British, German, French, blah, 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 are all going to be, compasses will all be in mils. And there's a reason for that. And the reason is you don't want to get confused when you're like calling in a fire mission or something, you know. You could say azimuth 240, 240 degrees or whatever. But if you say it in mils, it's just it's not only clearer, but it divides the compass into finer units, more accuracy, because you might need more accuracy than a degree. You might need degree and a half. You might need half a degree accuracy. And you know, you can't say, 240.5 degrees, not with a little hand compass, but you might say 2345 mils, 2345 mils, 2345 or something to that effect. That's why we went to the system.
Okay. I'm going to ask you one, or bring up one more quick question here. Then we're going to do our swag giveaway. Now, maybe we could start as somebody's never picked up a compass before. Where do they start? And we'll take them right through the fundamentals into being able to hopefully navigate on their own in the backcountry. Whoops, wrong question. At what point do you retire a compass? Does a bubble in the compass make it no longer usable in the field? You explained that to me in the green room.
Yeah, I actually have. I'm trying to think what I did with the compass. Here it is. You know, every one of these, given enough time, this thing has a bubble in it. Let's see if I can. I don't know if can you see the bubble. The bubble is right at the very top of the compass. It's right there. Now watch. What I'm gonna do now, I'm gonna put one finger on this end of the dial, put one finger on the other side, and I'm gonna squeeze. I want you to watch the bubble when I squeeze. Okay, watch. Can you see the bubble? Watch the bubble. Oh, and I'll try to get under here so you can. You watching the bubble? What's happening?
It's disappearing. It's getting
smaller, doesn't it? So what actually happens, this thing functions as a barometer. So in other words, if you take this compass up in altitude, okay, as you get up in altitude, there's less and less pressure, right? Since there's less pressure out here, okay, that bubble, do I have this right now? Yeah, as you go up, there's less outside pressure, okay, so that bubble will get bigger. And as you come down, you have greater pressure, which is air pressure, which is pushing down on this capsule, and the bubble will get smaller. So the point is, if you have a compass with a bubble in it, you start out your canoe trip on a beautiful, nice sunny day, okay, nice high pressure area, you're going to have a small bubble because it's going to be pushing down on the top. You wake up the next morning, you see that bubble's gotten bigger. Hey, that's good news. Okay? Oh no, that's not good news. Excuse me. Because what's happening is now you have less pressure on it. which means you're in a low pressure area. The bubble got bigger, so now it's probably going to rain. So if you have one, you could use it as a primitive, barometer, if you want to. But basically what the factories say is if the bubble is less than 1/4 of an inch in diameter, it's a non-issue. Don't worry about it. It doesn't affect anything. They've done a lot of studies with compasses, and actually, even with a pretty big bubble in it, compass still pretty much works fine. So, I wouldn't worry about it, except my guy just paid $50 for this thing, and there's a bubble in it already. That's just one of the prices you pay for a liquid-filled compass. And with due respect, I just don't think that they're doing as good a job sealing them today as they did years ago. For example, here I have, this is a Santo KB14. This is probably the most accurate hand compass in the world. This is actually my compass. This is one I used as a forester years ago. I remember I paid $75 for this thing. Now they're not that much more expensive. I think 125, 150, something like that. This does not have a single bubble in it. This is, it's a beautiful instrument. It's all aluminum and everything. And you would put one of these in your hand, you would say, oh, that's the compass I want. And I would say to you, yeah, you're probably getting the most accurate hand compass in the world, and it's compact and it's rugged and everything. But you know what? It doesn't have a built-in protractor, which means you can't use it on a map. You need a protractor and a pencil. So it's not the right compass for flying. But excellent question. So I'm glad you brought it up. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so like I say, what I'd like to do now, Cliff, is I'm going to do the swag giveaway. Just so that we can get back in, and we're gonna do Compass 101 for beginners, just like we were doing a Boy Scout on an orienteering trip to teach them a bit about that, and maybe talk a bit about declination and how to set that up on your compass with your maps. Is that cool? Okay, I'm gonna just drop you in the basement for a minute. Might be a great time to hit a beverage or a men's room or something like that, and we'll have you up in a second. Thank you. All right, guys and gals, hope everybody's learning something. You know what? This guy is a wealth of information, isn't he? He's got it all. That's cool. Anyways, this week's swag giveaway. I'm going to remind everybody, please do not put your answers over there in the chat. What I need you to do is I need you to send me your answers to coasprize@gmail.com, and you have until Saturday at 11 p.m. to get your answers in. Basically what we got for giveaways tonight. I'm going to be giving away, and thank you to one of my regular viewers who once in a while throws me a couple bones and asks me to give something away on his behalf, and he likes to go by the name Anonymous. Thank you very much. So this week, as part of the swag giveaway, I got a Canoehound Adventures baseball cap, brand new, still tucked in the back and everything, so that'll be going to one lucky winner. We're going to be doing 2 prizes this week, okay? There's going to be the Canoehound Adventures prize pack with the hat, and of course my stickers. That way it's not lucky to have it upside down, so we'll keep them right side up. Stickers, iron-on patches, and reflective decals, and then of course a few goodies from Algonquin Outfitters. Okay, that'll be going to one lucky winner, and then our second lucky winner will actually be receiving from our good friend Kevin Ride from Kevin Outdoors, and let me just pull that up here on screen. The new edition of Backcountry Eats. It's a new book that he's just come out with there. And as you can see, it's got all kinds of features on dehydrating, different dehydrators to pick up, meal planning, portion packing meals, stoves and fuel, baking in the backcountry, and protecting your food from wildlife. And that includes chipmunks. So you'll want to check that out. All kinds of delectable meals in there that he has laid out. Great opportunity for anybody that might be looking to dehydrate and have their own foods ready for this season. So tonight's question is, and we touched on it a little bit earlier, but we are going to be talking about it a little more coming up, okay? So tonight's question is, what is the deviation adjustment of a compass from true north called? There's a mouthful right there. This is probably one of the tougher ones, but you know what? The answers are on tonight's show. So what is the deviation adjustment of a compass from true north called? Send me your answers, whether you get it right or wrong. If you get it wrong, I will send you a clue as to what it is so that you can actually get it right. But Cliff and I will be talking about this very shortly, so make sure you keep that. I'm going to keep this up on screen. I see Cliff is down here in the green room, and let's move back on with the show. Welcome back, Cliff.
Hey, thank you.
Do you know the answer to this question?
I think I do.
Okay, well, we will touch on that quite literally in a few moments here, will we not? Okay, so I think there's a couple scouters in here in the chat tonight, and I'm sure they know all about this stuff, but when they're teaching their scout troops or their Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, whatever it may be, about orienteering, we'll say, for instance, which has a lot of practicality when it comes to canoe tripping. Same principles, I would say. Where should one start?
Well, all right. First of all, when I did this little book, the whole idea was to keep it simple. And so before I show you how simple it is, I want you to understand something. This book is 1/4 of an inch thick. Now, a lot of people will pick it up and they'll say, oh, no, look, this is the complete guide and it's 1/2 inch thick. Well, let me tell you how this works, first of all. If you're a writer, you know it works this way. Publisher comes to you and they say, okay, I want a book on map and compass, and I want it to sell for $24.95 or whatever. So I want 85,000 words and X number of photos. And you might say to them, it's not that hard. I can do a map and compass book for you for 20,000 words. No, we don't want 20,000. We want 80,000 because we want this book to sell for $24.95. Okay, I'm going to give the publisher what they want. So I'm going to tell the story of what you need to know, and then I'm going to fill the book up with a bunch of stuff you don't need to know. We'll talk about orienteering. We'll talk about all sorts of other things that has nothing to do with the problem. The point that I'm trying to make is mastering map and compass is absurdly simple. It is not difficult. And if you master what's in this 1/4 inch, you can go anywhere in the world, use any map set in the world. The point is, it's that simple. You don't need any more than that. So for those who are just getting into this and think, oh, declination is so complicated. No, it's really simple. So I'm just going to put this on the screen to show you, because he said, how do you get started? So I'm just going to put this. This is a picture. Okay, maybe you can see what. Can you see this?
Yep.
Can you put yours up on there? That
My
picture,
book?
page 44. Can you put that up so I don't have to try to hold this? And
okay, let me get to the page.
Okay, you
page
put
44. Okay.
Page 44.
Let me get back to here. Oops, let's go.
If you can, yeah. Right now, I want you to look at this picture that he's got up. This is all there is to it. Now, this is how simple it is, okay? All right, now, I'm going to take my mouse over here. You are here. You want to go here to this island out here. You cannot see this island on the ground. It's too far away. But you can see it on your map. So what you're going to do is you're going to plot a bearing to it. To do that, you take one edge of the compass, either the left edge or the right edge. We're taking the left edge, and I'm lining this up. This is where I am. This is where I want to go. You just leave that compass right on the map. Then you turn this dial until north on the dial points to north on the map. North on the map is at the top of the map. That's it. Don't pay any attention to the magnetic needle. Okay? Forget the magnetic needle. Can you push it over a little bit more? Yeah.
Okay. The book's in my face. I can't see it, so I'm going to move my screen there. Okay, here we go. This is better.
Yeah, there you go. That's perfect. All right. Now, don't use the magnetic needle. This is just a protractor function. You're here. You want to go here. You could have used this side of the compass, or you could have used this side of the compass. Or you could have just used this center arrow and put it on where you are and pointed it towards her. But since these lines are, this line is parallel to this line, and this line is parallel to this line, you can use the side. Then while holding this level, you turn the dial until the printed arrow, that's the printed north arrow, not the needle, points to the top of the map. That's it. you're done.
You're talking about the red dog, correct?
Locked right here on the dial. That's all there is to it. Then, okay, you can put that down now, Dennis. Now it's locked on the dial. Okay, there it is. There it is. Whatever it was, it's now locked on this dial. Then is all you do is you take the compass in your hand, you hold it like so. You take your other hand and you hold it like so. You put your elbows the way I showed you, and then you turn around until the red end, which is the north end of the magnetic needle, points to north on the dial. It will be framed inside a little printed arrow inside the dial. When that happens, you go this way. You do not follow the needle. You always follow the base plate. That's it. Hello, you're done.
In a nutshell.
Simple 3-step process. And you know what? That's the basis for everything. So the first thing you got to do is get the bearing off the map from where you are to where you want to go. That's locked on the dial. Then you hold this in your hand. You turn your body around until the north end of the needle is framed in the printed arrow. In other words, north on the magnetic needle points to north on the dial. Okay. And you just go. That's it. You're done. Now, the only other thing, and you say, oh, there's more to it than that. Not a lot. Yeah, sometimes you need to do this backwards because you're lost. You don't know where you are. So you maybe have to shoot a bearing to a distant object and then plot a reverse bearing on your map. Then you find another object, maybe it's a fire tower or something that you see, and you plot a reverse bearing where the two lines go together. It's called triangulation. It's very simple. Okay, but that will come in time. But right now, it's as simple as what I just showed you. Now, the only other thing you're going to have to deal with is called declination. And if you're in Ontario, well, you can pretty much not worry about it too much because the declination is not very large. In other words, the declination is the angle between true north and magnetic north, because compasses don't point to true north. They point to magnetic north. And depending where you are on the earth, the compass is going to point to a different place. I can look this up. I can actually show you a diagram of it. I should have maybe had this, here we go. Okay. I don't know if you can see this or not. Okay. You can see this diagram. This is on
full screen again. Yep.
Okay. Can you see that world?
Yes.
Okay, well, you can see where true north is. It's right at the very top. That's where the meridians come together. But if you are standing, okay, if you are standing, whoops, let's see if I can. If you are standing here, your true north is here, but your compass needle is going to point over here. This would be called east declination. If you are over here, okay, this is true north here, but your compass is going to be pointing to the left of that or west. That's called west declination. There is one meridian on the earth that goes, it's called the line of zero declination. They call it the agonic line. I think some of it runs through, could be wrong. It runs through, I think it's more like it's a western Minnesota, or Ontario is close. You're only a few degrees of declination off. Now, there's an easy way. There's the easiest way to understand declination is, okay, put that diagram up there.
The declination? Yep.
Yeah, I'll put that up there.
I'm playing magical screens here.
Yeah.
Just bear with me for a second.
This is a declination diagram.
There we go. Okay, now we got her.
Right, this is a declination diagram off of a Canadian map, off of a Canadian 1 to 50,000 topographic map. And what it's, and the declination, and so when you pick up a map you look down in the bottom, or sometimes it's in the right or left margin.
Let me show that really quick here, Cliff.
Oh, okay.
So on a map, you'll see this diagram.
There you go.
On the topo map.
See, he has it right there on the top of map. Okay, let's interpret it now. Let's go back to the one we had before. Now, here's what this means. Sometimes it'll say TN, which says true north. This is the direction of true north on the map. The flag always is magnetic north. That's the direction of magnetic north on the map. What this says is, this is the direction of true north on your map. Magnetic north is 31 degrees and 37 minutes, or 562 mils east. This is called east declination because the flag is to the east or right of true north, okay? Now, there's another little thing over here. It's a little ball. Now, this is universal. This is going to be on all North American maps. This little ball notes the direction of the grid lines. This is called grid north. And that means if you follow a grid line on your map, you are going to be going in this direction. But grid north is not in the same location as true north. It's a little to the west. How much to the west? 13 minutes or 4 mils if you're thinking military. Now, why wouldn't it be the same as true north? The answer is cartographers, they strive for that, they try that. But if you picture the earth as an orange with meridians inscribed on the orange, and then you peel the shell off the orange and you push the shell flat, there's going to be a little bit of distortion in the grid lines. The grid lines will not point exactly true north anymore. They report that in the declination diagram on your map. In this particular case, it says grid north. So there's 3 norths: true north, magnetic north, and the direction the grid lines point. It says grid north is 13 minutes west of true north. That's what that says. Okay? Now those are the 3 norths. And when you specify declination, you have to specify which north you're using. If you say magnetic declination is the angle between true north, measured clockwise, okay, there it is, and it's 31 degrees and 37 minutes east. If you are specifying grid north because you are using the grid lines on your map to align your protractor function of your compass, you would be measuring from here, in which case the declination would be 31 degrees and 37 minutes plus these 13 minutes. You follow?
Mm-hmm.
Now, and when you make a bearing, when you determine a bearing, it's the same thing. You can have what's called a true bearing, or a magnetic bearing, or a grid bearing. You have to specify. A true bearing would be measured from true north clockwise to the direction of travel. Let's say your direction of travel is due east, which is 90 degrees. Too bad I can't draw a line out here that says east or 90 degrees. So a true bearing of 90 degrees would equal a magnetic bearing, because magnetic bearing is measured from magnetic north clockwise to the direction of travel. So that would be, magnetic bearing would be from here to here. A true bearing would be from here to here, and a grid bearing would be from here to here.
Can we somehow show this on screen? Tell me where you want me to put the cursor, and I'll put it there. So you can see that.
Well, it's all I'm saying is that when you talk about declination, you also have to talk about what kind of declination. And there's 2 kinds of declination. There's magnetic declination, okay, which is measured from true north, which is the angle between true north and magnetic north. There's also grid declination, which is the angle, okay, between grid north and true north, okay? So the grid declination in this case is 13 minutes west. Why is it west? Because that little dot's to the left or west of the star. This is 31 degrees 37 minutes. And okay, that is measured from here to here. So that is this angle from here to here would be the magnetic declination. Okay, this angle from here to here would be the grid declination.
Right.
You're measuring from one of the norths clockwise to the flag.
Okay. So Steve Baldwin's asking, which of these two methods of declination do most canoeists or hikers use? Or
Well,
which do you prefer?
That's a really good question. The truth is, we're generally speaking, I think it's even more than generally speaking, the difference between magnetic and true north is so small, forget it. It's a non-issue. It's almost never going to be over a degree. So if it's never over a degree, who cares? So the only thing you really have to concern yourself about is the magnetic declination. Now, there's an easy way to remember this. Say you determine when you use the protractor function of your compass, by placing the compass on the map like we saw in that colored picture a second ago, you are aligning, this was a little hard to explain since we're not looking down on a desk here, but you are aligning the north-south arrow inside the compass dial with true north on the map. In other words, when you turn this dial here, you're turning this dial straight up so that north on the dial is pointing to the top of the map. Okay, the dead top of the map is true north. Okay, or within a fraction of a degree of it. Okay, so when you when you determine a bearing off a map using the protractor function of your compass, you are by definition computing a true heading or a true bearing. Now what you have to do is take that true bearing that is set on your compass and you have to convert it to a magnetic bearing you can follow on your compass. Okay, now there's two ways to do that. One, you buy a compass with a declination adjustment. You can get them as cheap as $15, $20. Okay, some of them have a geared little mechanism for dealing with it. That's fine too. Okay, so that's one way. The other way is you don't have to do either one. So all I have to do is remember a little rhyme. And the rhyme goes like this: declination east, compass least. Declination west, compass best. If you can throw that picture back on there with that declination diagram, we'll make it real simple.
Yeah, right here. Boink.
All right. I'll tell you, let's pretend that this is 32 degrees. Forget the 37 minutes. Right now, we know that from here to here is 32 degrees. In other words, the magnetic declination is 32 degrees. And it's 32 degrees east. Why east? Because the flag is east or to the right of true north. Now, what that means is if I am using this map, anytime I convert a true bearing, which is from here to there, to a magnetic bearing, which is from here to there, I subtract 32 degrees. So if I read on my compass that the bearing is 90 degrees, that's a true bearing. I have to convert it to magnetic. It says the declination here is 32 degrees. What's 90 minus 32? 58. Change the dial to 58 and take off. Now, it doesn't matter which direction you're going on this map because the declination for the entire map sheet is 32 degrees east. You can be going west on the map. You can be going south on the map. You can be going north on the map. Doesn't matter which direction you're going. Is all you have to remember is after you have determined the true bearing off the map with a protractor, you subtract 32 degrees, and that's what you set on your compass. Now, obviously, if you get lost and you have to use your compass to aim on something you know that's out there. Like say there's a fire tower out there, and that fire tower is on your map. When you take that bearing of that fire tower with your compass, you're not taking a true bearing. You're taking a magnetic bearing. Why? Because you're using the needle. Okay? When you took the bearing off the map, you weren't using the needle. You were only using the protractor. So when you use the protractor without the needle, you'll get a true bearing. When you use the needle, you get a magnetic bearing. Now, if you want to convert the magnetic to true, you got to reverse the rhyme. Now, if you have a map, if say you are out in Alberta, if you're in Alberta, this flag's not going to be here. Okay, the flag's going to be on the other side. Okay, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then you apply the rhyme: declination east, compass least; declination west, compass best. Okay, so wait, I think I got. Excuse me, I just got this wrong. Okay, if you are in Nova Scotia, that compass is going to be pointing west. That'll be west declination. And if you are in Alberta, that compass is going to be pointing this way. So you're going to have west declination in Nova Scotia. You're going to have east declination in the western provinces. Same in the U.S. It's the same deal. Okay, so all you got to do is remember the rhyme. Look down in the bottom of the map, see what it says. It might say declination 10 degrees east. Okay, so whatever you compute off the map with your protractor function of the compass, change the dial, subtract out, or add the declination. That's it. That's all there is to it. That's declination.
So, Cliff, it's true to say that the needle on a compass will always point towards magnetic north, correct?
Yeah, unless you are there are some parts of the world where you have magnetic influences,
Right, okay. Yeah.
They're finding a ton of, iron ore in one of the northern provinces somewhere. It's probably going to affect your compass.
Sure. John's asking from Lost Lakes. He's asking, how often do you find yourself using a compass for canoe tripping, given that you usually just use prominent features on a lake, big tree, island down the lake, things like that? Or would you say it's more valuable skill for hikers?
Well, you know what? Some people are born with the ability to look at features and say, aha, that's that. I'm not one of them. And I can be going down a lake, and and there's a little bay, and I don't know, is it this bay or is it that bay? I don't know. I don't. My brain doesn't process that well. Some people can do that, but I would say to you, do it enough, you'll start having trouble. In fact, what's actually kind of interesting, when I first started doing these canoe trips, I did everything map and compass. This was before GPS. We didn't have anything like that, and I did not want to get lost. And the way to keep from getting lost is to know where you are literally every second, okay? And in order to do that, what I would do, I was here, and I would look on the map, and I say, I want to go there. I'm going to call that point B. I would determine the bearing from where I am to point B, true heading. Then I would subtract out or add in the declination. I would aim out there at a point. I would head to that point. When I got to that point, I would say, aha, I'm here. Now I want to go to point C. Let's see, what's a good point C? Oh, and I look on the map, there's a good point C. I would determine the true bearing to that, set the compass in. That's how I did stuff. And I never missed a beat. Then I got a GPS and everything changed. I started getting super lazy. And I got to tell you, I'm still lazy today. It's terrible. Now, I just sort of go and look at the countryside and whatever, and then I wake up one minute. I've been watching that eagle for a while. I don't know where I am. So then I'm going to turn on my GPS to figure out where I am. What the heck, I got the GPS. But what's actually happened is it has atrophied my skills. In fact, another cute little story. This was a few years ago. I was by myself. My wife took off to see her sister, and I said, I'm going to go up to the Boundary Waters. I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave tomorrow. I'm going to throw some crap together. I'm not taking a GPS. I'm not taking any fancy stuff. I'm just going to go. And I'm going to find my way with my compass like I did in the old days. You know what? I hit every portage dead on. I get more lost now with GPS and this stuff than I did in the old days. Why? It's made me lazy. It's made me lazy. So first of all, trying to show this, on a streaming program like this without maps and stuff, obviously this is going to be hard for people to comprehend. But if you had the book in front of you, looking at it, and it was explaining it, you'd say, this really is pretty simple. But it's pretty hard to do it, without the proper tools. But I would say on the heels of that, maybe we should talk a minute or so about a few minutes or whatever on GPS stuff. What do you think?
Sure. Yes. You know what? A lot of people are turning to that over map and compass. Something that. What were your thoughts on it?
Well, the first thing I would say, I started out with this, but I'm going to say again, I remember many years ago, which river? I think we may have been on, is it the Seal River, or was it, it was one of the northern Manitoba rivers, and I remember we had to cross Hyde Lake, which was 6 miles across, no islands. And a third of the way across, my GPS died. Just quit. And it wasn't a battery problem. It's just, I don't know what happened. It just died. Fortunately, I knew the exact bearing we were on, and I set it on my compass immediately, and I could see, and I just put a notch in the horizon. We actually wound up doing 6 miles straight across Hyde Lake, which was very dangerous. You never want to do this, but this was before satellite phones and GPSs were new, and I had one of the earlier ones, and it died. But I ultimately had to revert immediately then to compass. And another story, and we'll look at this. I'm going to just hold this. I got a GPS right now. I'm just going to hold this up for a minute. Okay, here you can. All right, here's a Garmin GPS. Now, what's happened is all these GPSs now, as everybody knows, they all have built-in maps in them, right? And people are downloading maps and all the rest of it. I think that's just fine. But I got to tell you a little story. My buddy, I have a very good friend of mine, Larry Rice. Some of you may have the 20th anniversary edition of my book, Canoeing Wild Rivers. And in that book, I tell the story. Larry did a trip many years ago on the South Nahanni River with some people, and he was advised by the trip leader. Well, people were advised by the trip leader, you don't need a map set. I have all the maps downloaded into my GPS. Well, Larry brought a map set anyway. And then in the evening, what was happening was everybody was gathering around Larry saying, hey, where are we on the map? So you got this great big map. But what happens is you look at something like this. Let's see if I can get it back up there. And your attitude is, well, here's the map, okay? I can follow that. It's so tiny, the truth is you can't. You think you can figure out where you are on that little screen. But that little screen is so tiny that in the total scheme of things, unless you, some people, okay, I have to admit, some people have brilliant brain processing skills where they can see all this in perspective. I can't. And you know what? Neither can any of my friends. And maybe you can't either. You can't really picture the majesty of that big lake and all this stuff around you on this little tiny 2-inch screen. But if you put it on a map, and the map is this big, that's a lot truer picture. So you really need to know where you are on the map. And just because you can locate your position on the screen may not mean you can locate it on a map, especially if you get into these, I often tell people, I say the Boundary Waters canoe area, I could put Quetico in there too. Quetico is a little easier to find your way around in because the lakes tend to be a little bigger than they are in the Boundary Waters. But in the Boundary Waters, the lakes are really small. And oftentimes people are making portages every 20 minutes or so. They're so tiny that you can quickly lose track, of where you are. So that's why if you buy a GPS, you need to learn UTM. Maybe you can flash that thing on the screen. There's
Let me pull that up. We have a guest in the basement here too. I'd like to bring up on in a second here. Here's the one you're speaking of, I believe. There we go.
That's it. Okay. Now, I don't know. Can you guys see this pretty clear? Okay. Or can you not? Any way we can make it bigger? No?
Oh, yeah. I could go full screen. There we go.
Blow it full screen. If you can. A little more. Keep going. Uh-oh. It's cut off the bottom. Okay. Make it a little smaller. Well, okay. That's about there. Okay. Now, when you turn on your GPS, this is a super oversimplification of it, but this happens to be a small section of a National Geographic map of the Boundary Waters Canoe area. I've chosen it as a little training aid here simply because it has what are called UTM coordinates all around it. Now, UTM stands for Universal Translocator. These are coordinates, okay? These numbers here, this one's, I'm not even going to go into how they come up with them. That's not important at this point. This is 5291. This grid line here is 5292. This grid line is 5293, and so forth, okay? These are called northing grid lines, northing. Now, there's easting grid lines. This one says 626. The next grid line is 627. The next one here is 628. 629, 630. Now, by the way, before I look at this any closer, if you notice, the grid lines are on a little bit of an angle, aren't they? That's why they tell you that's why they report the error of grid north, because the way it works is the map margins. This is the map margin. If you follow this map margin straight up, that's true north. You follow this map margin straight up, that's true north. Well, as you can see, the grid lines are not pointing exactly towards true north, which means if you use these grid lines for a reference with your compass, when you use the protractor function, what you will be getting is a grid bearing or grid direction, not a true direction. Okay, that's the bad news. The good news is it's not more than a degree or so, so it's really not a big deal. But say what happens is you're lost. You don't know where you are on this lake. You turn on your GPS and you're going to get a number. Now you can set up your GPS to either read latitude, longitude, or UTM, or both. Now I'm going to hold this up. I don't know whether you can flip out of that for a minute, and so I can hold this up and they can see this. Okay, I'm going to hold this up. Whoops. Okay, here we go. Okay, now if you look at the top, it says, first look at the bottom. The bottom says my location is 44 degrees, 49.522 minutes north, and my western, come on, stay on. And I am 92 degrees, 38.33 minutes west. Above it, you see it says 15T. That's a zone number on your map. And then it's got a number 0528. And then it's got another number below it, 4963. That's what's going to come up on your GPS. Now, if you have your GPS set with UTM instead of latitude, longitude, this is both. You got latitude, longitude on the bottom. You have UTM on the top. Let's go back to the picture we had before. Okay, yeah. Now, this is what, can you make it a little bigger? Okay, good. All right, now this is what your compass is. This is what you are reading on your GPS. This number will come up. If you go into the setup menu of your GPS and you click on UTM. Okay, this number will come up. And what's come up is 628,400 east, 529,600 north. Okay? That's what you're reading on the GPS. Let's plot it on your map. First, it's 628,400. here's 626, 627, here's 628. So this grid line is 628. This grid line must be 629. So if this is 628 and this is 629, 4/10 across the between them is 628, 400. So you are on this line somewhere. Okay. The next number is 5296, 800. Okay, we got to go down a little. So here's 5294, 5295. Here's 5296 and 5297. So this is 8/10 of the way. So this is 5296, 800. Draw a line there, and this is where you are. And it's that simple. Now, the only thing that you have to be sure of that you do, which is very important, by the way, is you have to know the zone number in which you are operating, okay? Because the way this system works, there's a bunch of different zones. I can never remember how many there are. But if you go and look inside each zone, the numbers are all the same. In every zone, the numbers are all the same. So by specifying the zone that you are in, you will be correct on the map you are on. How do you know which zone you're in? It gives you that information right in the bottom of your map, right next to the declination information. If it might say zone 52, it might say zone 23, zone 27, whatever it says. When you set up your GPS originally, you go to the setup menu, you go to zones, and you punch in zone or whatever. If you're going to use it off the map, if you're not going to use a map with it, then it really doesn't make much difference. Okay? Can you see? I can't really read it, but
right there. That's
right
center,
there.
zone 17.
See that? Now, each one of those squares, each one of those UTM squares are 1,000 meters in each direction. So that map is in zone 17. Now, pilots, if you say you fly in on a bush plane, pilots, they don't like UTM. Why? Because they're flying across zones all the time. And if you don't have the correct zone, you're going to be thousands of meters off. So pilots are going to use latitude, longitude. But the good news is your GPS, especially the newer GPSs, you can have both, just like you saw in mine. You can have latitude, longitude, and you can also have UTM. And the good news with that is if you're in the US, you can use latitude, longitude, good luck. Or if you're in Canada, which has more sensible maps, in my opinion, you can use UTM, which is much easier to use. Now, it's really this simple. You know, you can study UTM, and if you read my book, Canoeing Wild Rivers, or if you read the Little Map and Compass book, it'll tell you all about how the Earth's divided, how they get the zones, how they get all this information. Truth is, you really don't need it. It's nice to know. That's all you really need to know is how to take those numbers from the GPS and plot them on your map. And if you can do that, the beauty of it is you can be totally lost, not know anywhere you are. Maybe you can have a cheap GPS. You can get one of these $98 ones that nobody wants anymore because it doesn't have a map in it. Who cares? It'll give you UTM and it'll give you latitude, longitude. Just click it up, read the UTM numbers, and plot it on the map. Bring that back up again because I'll show you how we used to do it in the old days. Yeah, okay, so now in the old days, here's what would happen. Okay, I'm going across this lake, and I don't have a map in my GPS, but I do have numbers coming up, okay? And here's what I'm seeing, and I'm going this way, da, 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 da. And here's what I'm watching, the numbers come up on my GPS. The number comes up on my GPS, 5296-0000, 5296-1000, 5296-500. Oh, I know, I'm halfway between here and here. And I'm doing the same thing looking down here. Oh, okay, now I'm kind of like over here. I don't know where, and numbers are coming up. And it says, okay, number 50, 52, 529, 52940. Oh, okay, this is the 5290. This is the 52940 right in here. And what I would do is we would actually put numbers on the grid lines up here so that when the map was folded, we didn't have to go down to the bottom to read it. And with a big topographic map, that's what you want to do on a canoe trip, because you're going to have a great big topographic map, and you can't have the bottom margin always visible, and you can't have the side margin always visible. So what you do, like on this line over here, this is looks like 5295. I might write 5295 on this line here. I might write it again here, and I might write it again here. Then I might take this 630. I might write 630 on this line up here, and then again up here. Make sense?
Yep.
Yeah.
That way you're only working with the section. By the way, everybody, now you know where Cliff Jacobson's favorite campsite is. Brian J., how you doing tonight?
So very good. That's pretty much in a nutshell, you guys. And if you can master the few things that we talked about today, you don't need 100 pages to understand this stuff. I just gotta tell you, this is one of my proudest moments. This was maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. This was after this little map and compass book came out. I got an email from Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia, was a United Nations task force team. They asked permission to duplicate this book in Mongolian. I mean, great honor. I mean, there's no money or anything exchanged hands. It's it's an honor. And I said, yeah, sure, fine. It's fine with me. My publisher doesn't care. I'm happy to do that. And then I said, well, why did you pick this book? So she tells me the story. I didn't even know. She said, she said, we were once ruled by the Russians. And when the Russians ruled Mongolia, our country, all the maps were classified. And, nobody knew anything about map or compass or anything. She says, we have these wonderful national parks now, and we have these park rangers, and they don't know how to read a map or compass. She says, so we were looking around for a real simple book that we thought they could understand. And that's why we picked this one. So that's why I say it's not rocket science. It's not hard. If my 13-year-old kids in school could understand it, anybody can.
Cool. Brian, did you have a question for Cliff?
Actually, more of a comment, really. Hope you guys are doing well tonight. Mr. Jacobson, your information was available, was made available back in high school when we first started with back then it was geography class, and it was hiking and canoeing in Algonquin was part of the curriculum. And so your reference books were available back then as suggested reading. And I still followed along. And actually, it's funny. I ran into the teacher that was on those trips with us, and I told him I'm still canoeing and still doing hiking and stuff. I did my last a solo trip recently, a couple of years ago, which and he was really thrilled that we continued that tradition along. So I just want to say thank you for all the resources that you've made available over the time.
Thank you so much for calling and writing and viewing and whatever you like. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. It really made my day. Thanks.
Cool. Any other questions there, Brian? Or
no, we got no. I just wanted to pop on and say a thank you to Mr. Jacobson, and a great season that you've had, Dennis, and looking forward to the next one, and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
By the way, I'm Cliff. The last time I was Mr. Jacobson was when I was teaching 8th graders, and now they're all old enough to call me Cliff too. So thank you, Cliff.
Very well, Cliff. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks for popping up, Brian. Appreciate it.
Yep, you bet. Take care.
Enjoy the rest of the show.
Thanks.
Yeah, if anybody wants to come on, has a question for Cliff, just to clear a few things up, by all means, please do pop on. I've dropped the link in a couple of times. We've got about another 10 or 15 minutes here in the show. If we need to, we can go over the 9 o'clock hour by a few minutes. That's not a problem. We will take a couple of questions, though, from the chat here, Cliff, if that's cool with you. Here was one I thought was pretty cool, and I've seen a couple questions in the chat similar to this. Is it possible to jerry rig a rudimentary compass out of common natural materials? Would there be any point?
Oh, sure it is. When I was a kid, we used to make compasses. We would take a needle and a magnet and stroke the needle. Okay, we'd set the needle on a little cork and put it in the water, and look at you have a compass. But that's a really good question because, one of the kind of the beef things that I have is with these products, the survival kits. That's what they call them. Survival kits. Comes in a little box like that. You have a razor blade, let's say a fish hook, a magnifying glass with about the size of a BB. You have a compass that's a little gumball machine. It's about the size of an M&M, and this is going to save your life. These are such. I hate to use the word stupid, but you know what? The people who buy these things have no skills, zero. Instead of spending $6.95 or $9.95 on one of those things, why don't you buy a book that teaches you how to use a map and compass, or buy a book that gives you some camping skills, okay? Instead of buying some stupid toy that you're never going to use. And that's what this stuff is. Another one of my pet peeves are the bracelets. You've seen them, haven't you? They're made out of paracord. Unravel it and you got 50 feet of paracord. Okay, I have two questions. One, when do you think you'll find yourself in a situation that you will need that? Number two, have you ever known anybody that has ever unraveled their bracelet?
I have, actually. Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I guess that's all I'm saying. There's a lot of cutesy stuff out there.
Yeah.
And I don't think you need any of it. You don't need to spend your money on cutesy stuff. You don't need to spend $50 or $100 on a compass. You can get a perfectly good one for $20. Actually, since you need two, why don't you get a $20 one and a $10 one? You'll probably never use the $10 one, but at least if it breaks, you got a backup. It's pretty much the same thing with all camping equipment. You can buy knives for like $500-600 if you want to, and they're really not going to cut much better than just a decent. And a good example is I don't know. Did you guys used to get a couple of old guys called Click and Clack? They were auto mechanics. Did you used to get that in Ontario?
I don't recall it, no.
Okay, well, there was a couple guys that had a radio station. They were called Click and Clack, and they were really knowledgeable mechanic guys, and they were really funny. And one day they were reviewing the new Mercedes-Benz. So Click says to Clack, he says, well, we just did the review on this car. What'd you think of it? And Clack says, it's a really nice car. He says, I got to tell you, it's a really nice car. He says, but my question is, and this was 30 years ago. He says, but the question is, does it drive $10,000 better than my Dodge Dart? Okay, so the question you really need to ask yourself when you buy a lot of this equipment is, yes, everybody likes to have the best, but does it work X dollars better, X $100 better, or what I have? And you're probably better off. I think you are. You're better off to spend your money on the really important things that count, and not on toys that example. The difference between a $20 headlamp and a $200 headlamp. They both light up the night. Yeah, the 200 one is going to be brighter. The question is, do you need all that light? You probably don't in a campsite. But you want to pay for it? Okay, fine, do it. But if you only have $200 to spend, you might be better off with a $20 headlamp and $180 worth of some other things. Your call.
Well, sometimes you spend more money. A lot of people are gearheads, right? They have to have everything. They have to have.
I agree. The problem with most gearheads are they're not skill heads.
True.
They're not skill heads. They got stuff, lots of stuff, but they don't have skills, and they somehow think that the stuff is going to save the day. I've seen one of them. I'll never forget. This was few years ago, major canoe company here. I won't name it, but they make, I think, some of the best canoes in the world. And they had a get-together, a conclave thing, whatever you want to call it. Everybody was to show up in their boats. These are beautiful, expensive canoes. And we're going to go down this river. Now, we showed, I tell you, took pictures. This was like Camelot, man. I'm telling you, there must have been $500,000 worth of canoes out there. And they were gorgeous and polished and everything. And then me and a couple of my buddies, we showed up with these scarred, kind of beat up solo boats and everything. No big deal. We're going down the river. Now, there's a wind blowing upstream. It's pretty good wind. It's probably, I don't know, 15 miles an hour maybe. There's no obstacles in the river. Zero. Okay, this is really important because these are expensive boats. You don't want anybody hitting stuff. And then the capsizes just start occurring. Flip. And then we come to a place which is a little curve. And the way you did this is, and then you had to go between a couple trees. You had to do a ferry, a right back ferry to get you in the next channel, out the channel. I go down through there, and then it's capsize. And pretty soon you see the canoes taking this other channel. Now, here are people with thousands and thousands of dollars worth of canoes. Don't even know how to do a simple back ferry. And, you'd be better off in a 15-foot Grumman knowing what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So to answer the question, which was a great question, are those things of any value? And my answer is, I think they are of zero value to you, but I think they are of great value to the company who makes them because you bought it.
Yep, making them rich. Quick question here. I know a few people in the chat have been putting through there this newer program called what is it? What 3 words? Is that? Are you familiar with that? Cliff?
What I don't understand. What was the question?
Oh, well, are you familiar with the program? It's an app on your phone. It's called What 3 Words, where every square meter on Earth has 3 words associated with it.
I never heard of it. No, I don't know.
Okay, so we won't discuss that one then. No, I think that's more of a rescue type of thing. But I don't know if you can use it for navigation or not.
I'm not sorry. I'm not really, I'm one of these guys that when I go on a canoe trip, my cell phone is turned completely off and it goes in a box. And the box goes in my pack. Mm-hmm. I do have, even some of my best friends get in camp at night and the phone's out. And, this to me has been the big problem with the technology. We first saw it starting in satellite phones. The minute your crew knows you have a satellite phone, they believe they have an option to quit. Or I got to call my wife, or I got to call my husband, or whatever. Can I use the sat phone? And the answer is no. I don't even give. When I was running trips in Canada, I never gave the sat phone number to any one of my clients. I don't want them to know it because the phone's never on. I don't want to have that phone on using battery life. The whole beauty of a canoe trip, of a wilderness canoe trip, is to get away from this stuff so you don't have it plugged in your head constantly all the time. At least that's my feeling. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to go into a rant on it.
No. Well, it looks like we have a bit of time, but so I wanted to know, and I think I asked you in the green room too. Your book here, the Map and Compass book, is that available anywhere right now, or is it off the shelves? Or
no, it's still available. It's still selling. I think you can buy it. If you go to Amazon Canada, you can get anything on Amazon Canada. Unfortunately, you can't get my teen book, Justin Cody's Race to Survival. You can get it as a you can get it as a digital copy. You can get it as a PDF on my website, or you can get it as a Kindle reader off of Amazon, but you can't get it online. In fact, I had an interesting episode not long ago. A reader ordered one and then sent me money via some, transfer company in Ontario. I couldn't transfer it to an American bank. And first I told her, I can't do this. The book sells for $12.95, but you know what? It costs to send it $22. $22.
Doesn't make sense, does it?
I can't send these things. And she said, okay, that's all right. She said, I said, so I just sent her the money back. And she said she wanted the book, whatever. She had a little boy that wanted to read. So I just sent her the book. I said, okay, whatever, forget it. But basically, I just can't send hard copies to Canada. It's just too expensive. I wish you guys had a postal deal that was a media mail rate. See, we're lucky here. We got this media mail rate. I can send Canoeing Wild Rivers, which is over 4 pounds, anywhere in the United States or anywhere in Alaska for $3.25. If I send that to Canada, the postage would be $40. Unfortunately, it's too bad. So what some people do is they have friends in the U.S. and they have it sent here, and then when they come visit, they get it.
Yeah,
but here's what it is.
To everybody in the chat, if anybody has a final question that you'd like to ask Cliff, I'd suggest you put it up now, as we only have a couple minutes left here.
Can I add one thing? I just want to say to all the viewers out here, first of all, I really appreciate you tuning in. And you're pretty exceptional. I don't think you realize that, but you are, and I'm going to tell you why. I think I said at the beginning, at least I was telling Dennis this. When I put a blog up on my website, and it's like how to do something, I get a couple hundred hits. But when it's an equipment thing, I get a couple thousand. So the fact that you are here actually, wanting to learn something rather than see what's the best deal to buy really does make you exceptional. And I appreciate you tuning in, and thank you.
Yeah, a really cool, funny question just came up here on screen. Bushman 613 is asking, has Cliff ever been lost?
We got time for the story or not?
Sure, yeah, we got time.
Okay, I was 21 years old, working for the Bureau of Land Management in Coos Bay, Oregon. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Coos Bay, it's right on the ocean, okay? It's on the western coast range, and it's like jungle. If you get off the road in Coos Bay, and you're 50 feet in, there's rhododendron goes 20 feet tall, big, huge Douglas fir trees, okay? Down trees everywhere, okay? In order to be a forester out there, you wear what's called cork boots. These are boots with steel pins in them. And the reason if you don't have the steel pins, you die out there because you got to you're walking on logs a lot, all right? And so anyway, this is a Friday, I remember vividly, and I'm in a hurry. And what I had to do was change the direction of a timber sale. Now, what we did in those days, this was before paintball guns. Now they have paintball guns, they mark trees. In those days, they didn't have paintball guns. We used ribbon, okay, to mark a sale, okay? We had squirt. We didn't have paintball guns, but we had like squirt type things that would squirt paint, okay? So what I was supposed to do is change this sale, which means I'm supposed to pull off all these ribbons and then run, I don't remember, it was northeast section, it was some number that I had to run and put up all new plastic ribbons, okay? And I was in a hurry because I had Monday off for elk hunting. I was going elk hunting. So I figured I want to get back on Friday night, and I got Saturday, Sunday, and Monday off. No, I think it was even 4 days. I maybe had Tuesday off or whatever, but I think it was a 4-day deal. So I'm really in a hurry. So I get in there and I start, it'd been ribboned in already. So I start pulling off ribbons. Now I got about 50 yards and I said, this is stupid. What are you doing? No, don't do this. Go to the end and pull off the ribbons and follow them back. Then ribbon in the new sale line and follow them back out again. And then I got stubborn and I said, I started this, by golly, I'll finish it. And boy, did I ever. I got to the end and went over this ridge, down this ravine, up this and that. Finally, when I got done, I got a cruiser's vest filled with ribbon. And I said, where am I? I didn't have a map. The only map I had was in my head, and the map was, I'm approximately 25 miles from Highway 101, which runs north-south along the California border and the ocean. If I go due west 25 miles, I will hit Highway 101 in the ocean. Well, first of all, I started by panicking, and I started to run a little bit. Well, you can't run very far on cruise. I mean, not without killing yourself. So then I sat down under a tree, and I just started thinking, what am I going to do? I have no clue where I am, none at all. And then I said, I'm not going to die. And I said, the reason why I'm not going to die is because, one, I got plenty of water. Two, I have my lunch, which was a salami sandwich and something else. I had a Swiss Army knife, very good compass, okay? And I had a map in my head. And the map in my head says, go west, young man, 25 miles, you'll hit the ocean. I started going west. And 2 days later, I slept under a tree at night. So it doesn't get very cold in Cousy. It just rains a lot. Okay. And 2 days later, I came out to a logging road. And I followed this logging road out to a little town called Remote, Oregon. You can Google it. It's still in town. I think population was 12 people or something like that then.
Big rural city.
Yeah, I was so hungry, And there was a logging truck sitting there dieseling up. And I went to the driver and I said, oh man, I don't know where I am. I have no idea where I am. And I told him the story and he says, well, buddy, he said, you just walked over that mountain. He says, you're in remote Oregon. He said, I said, well, can you take me back to my Jeep? And he had a map. And I said, yeah, my Jeep, so this is where my Jeep is. He says, yeah, I'll take you there. So he took me back to Jeep. And while we were there, he had I don't remember, it was a Three Musketeers bar or something like that. He gave me I devoured it. And then I got in my Jeep. And I remember I didn't drive home. It was too far. I think this was a Sunday. I remember stopped at a motel, and they had a little restaurant there serving fried chicken. And I went to this restaurant, and there were 2 fried chicken dinners. 2. I ate them both.
2 fried chicken.
Went back to the motel. Oh, threw up. I was sicker than a dog. And then the next morning, I got up, showered. I couldn't even take a shower. Every time I'd stand up, I'd get faint and start to pass out. And then I drove back home, put the Jeep back in the compound, and I never told a soul. Why? Because foresters don't get lost. Yep, I've been lost.
And you know how to use a compass. So, well.
So that, which goes back to that guy's one question, if you need these little survival things. There's a thing we call in survival called PMA. It stands for positive mental attitude. And what it means is if you know you can survive, you will. And here, what kept me alive was the knowledge that it's 25 miles. Actually, it was less than that. It was actually more like 20 or 18 due west. And I didn't have to go that far. I think I only went 10 or something like that. And I hit this little road that took me to remote Oregon. And then I caught that rod. So if you know you're going to survive, that's the key thing. It's just knowing you got a map in your head that you can survive.
Cool. Awesome. That's awesome, Cliff. You know what? Thanks very much for coming on here and sharing your information and your knowledge, man. You are, everybody in the chat is saying, like, you're a wealth of information and knowledge. The fact that you like to share it with people is a great thing. Keep it up. Keep it up.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on again, Dennis. It's been a pleasure. And I sure do appreciate all the kind words and the stuff from viewers.
Just in closing, do you have or do you know of any references that people might want to look up? There's your books, of course, and all the information you have out there. Is there anything else where you would steer people just to get more information? Or the old adage, right? Learn by doing, right?
There's a book, if you're really into GPS, there's a book called GPS Land Navigation. The name of the author escapes me right now. I think maybe one of the recommended books in the back of Canoeing Wild Rivers. But that book, GPS Land Navigation, listen, that's the Bible for GPS. But it's like anything else. You don't need to know all that stuff. It's just fun to know. But if you just learn the basics will get you through, because the maps today are excellent, and compasses are good, and GPSs are good. Just don't rely on technology. And when I see this thing with the cell phones, and here's what's interesting to me about the cell phones in closing. I say, you know what? They got an internal battery, okay? So if you deplete that, what do? Well, I have my little plug-in thing. Okay, you got your little plug-in thing. So here you are. You're in a complex area. It's like when we were going across Hyde Lake, we knew we had to make that before the sun came up, or we'd have been in big trouble. Once we canoed across the Everglades, and we were trying to find the tiniest, tightest passages. And if you screw up, you're in a maze. And all of a sudden, guess what? The phone goes down. Now, okay, I'm going to stop now. It's blowing bloody murder out there. There are waves in front of me. I'm trying to handle my canoe. But no, I'm going to get my little battery thing out, and I'm going to plug this baby in, and I'm going to find my way. Yeah, sure you are. You're going to crash and burn because your canoe's all over the lake. You don't have time for that. Sure, under a lot of conditions, this stuff works. But anybody who spent much time on a wilderness trip, and I don't mean going to Algonquin, going to the Boundary Waters, maybe to a lesser extent than Quetico, but you do some of these wonderful far northern rivers in this country where you wind up in the Delta out there in northern Manitoba with places to go everywhere, and there's a polar bear on the other side of the shore, and there's a rapid ahead, and now you're going to change batteries and you're going to recharge your phone.
Yeah,
so, you know, I know a lot of people think those of us who've done this are a little bit wacko, we're a little bit nuts, whatever. But you know what? We've been lucky. We've survived a lot of close calls, and we've survived them for a reason, because we've done things right. And what some people interpret as, he's just opinionated, just an old opinionated geezer. I have another name for it. I call it practical wisdom. You know, if what we've done works all the time, 100% of the time, we keep doing it. If it fails once, we say, let's try something that won't fail.
Yep. Yeah, you know what? Never hurts to brush up on our outdoor skills, right? No matter what they are, they can get you out of a jam one day. Cliff, once again, thanks very much for joining us here on your Tuesday evening. Pleasure having you on as usual. I'm just going to put you into the basement. I'm going to close up the show, and I'll talk to you in the green room after the show here.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Cliff.
Thanks, guys.
Well, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed the show. Like I say, Cliff is he's an icon in the outdoors community, and he certainly has a lot of information up there that he's lived it, and he enjoys teaching it. So that's a great thing. In closing, thanks everybody for popping into the show tonight. It's much appreciated. Just want to go over a couple things here before you do leave. Just a couple of announcements. Don't forget the swag giveaway question. I had that on screen. Get your answers into me. You know what? Take a chance. You could win yourself a great prize, or prizes. There's 2 prizes this week. Also, don't forget about next week's season finale. Okay, it's the last show of the season. Join us if you're available. We've got about 10 or 11 past guests from this season on the show. We're going to be just sort of getting updates and, doing a couple or a little bit of this stuff throughout the evening. Should be a good time. So 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time next Tuesday, which is the 29th of June. I will be back fresh off a 4-day canoe trip myself. Maybe I'll even tell you a little bit about that when the time comes. If you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the show. If you really enjoyed the show, hit the thumbs up and leave us a comment afterwards in the comment section below. It really helps us with our YouTube ratings, and makes us get noticed a little bit better out there. All that help really it comes in handy for the show for sure. If you want any updates on the show, what's coming up, what's happening, all that kind of news. Check us out on Facebook at Canoe Hounds Outdoor Adventure Show. I post on there regularly, and we'll have all kinds of stuff. Or you could check us out online at CanoeHoundAdventures.com. Anyways, my name is Dennis, Canoe Hound Adventures, and remember, everybody, keep the adventures alive. Have a great week.